Very happy to have you here tonight. Mayor Annise Parker.
Thank you. I appreciate the introduction, and again, welcome to Houston. Does not bother me that y'all are eating. Please do. I had originally said I would have dinner with you, and I'm not in a hurry to leave or anything, but I was telling the table, hey, we had a family photo done, Kathy and I and our 3 children this evening, and they all I had to take them out to dinner afterward. They all wanted to go out to dinner. And I went to one of my favorite restaurants, and I'm looking at my very favorite meal, and I thought, okay, do I have my favorite meal here at this restaurant, or do I go eat a banquet meal? and no disrespect to the DoubleTree. There's nothing wrong with your food. It was just not a contest. So I ate before I came. But that means I can talk and y'all can eat, and that'll work. I want to introduce the woman who's with me tonight, Jessica Michan, who is my press secretary here in the city of Houston, and does a wonderful job for me. But otherwise, it's just us, and I've been told that yes, everything is on the record, and I understand that. And Jessica's over there nodding her head very vigorously. But I hope this is a conversation. We'll talk to you just for a moment about what's going on here and how it feels. I just got reelected to my 2nd term. Thank you. 2-year terms are a real pain. They're expensive. That means I run all the time. And Houston's the only major American city with any longer with the 2-year terms. It makes it difficult to govern, and with the size of the city of Houston, the budget of the city of Houston, the fact that somehow cities got swept with the term limits fever, and I am the first person in Houston's history that's actually held all of the elected offices in the city of Houston, culminating in mayor, and now I'm in my 15th, just beginning my 15th year in public office. But before I was elected, the average experience level was about 4 years for a $4 billion corporation board of directors, because that is, in effect, what the city council is here. I have had a very exciting few weeks, because I did sign on to one of, I believe now, 190 mayors across the country. I'm only one of 190 mayors for the freedom to marry. And there's a mega church here in town that has teed off on me, and the pastor is about 15,000 members of his congregation, and he preached about me. And there are 2 things that he found particularly offensive. One is that I signed on as Mayor Annise Parker for the freedom to marry, and he and his parishioners are demanding that I resign. And but the thing that apparently finally tipped him over the edge is that I refer to the person who shared my life for 21 years as the First Lady of Houston. And I have all of this mail. All of this mail. You know, the funny thing is that I could designate my mother the First Lady of Houston if I were single, but because this is my longtime life partner, that's just really offensive to a lot of folks, and so I'm getting some interesting. Actually, it's sort of, they're like form letters, and they try very hard to be polite, but they all tell me I'm going to hell in a very polite way. Is cheering. So he will not really be in a position to advocate. I'm going to advocate. I think it's important. And when we signed on to this Mayors for the Freedom to Marry, it was my understanding as a co-chair that we were going to, wherever possible, put this forward for vigorous public debate. But again, that's why I think we ought to have the conversation. And I don't know how it would come out. I just don't want to see that be something that rips apart a convention. It's the kind of thing that we ought to be able to engage passionately with each other and then come together afterwards. The Trayvon Martin, I actually had a meeting with my police chief this afternoon. We meet once a week to keep up on issues, and I'll speak as a mayor who has a 5,000 person police department, one of the largest in the country, and we've had our share of police incidents. If you sign up, I cannot understand, and the police chief could not understand why this guy wasn't arrested and why he wasn't before a grand jury almost immediately. You can't be in a neighborhood watch in Houston without pledging not to be armed. And then if you're in a neighborhood watch and you illegally carry a weapon for the dispatcher to say, don't get out of your car, don't get out of your car, and you jump out, you are an aggressor. And I'm not privy to all the information, but I can tell you that I think there's been somehow a miscarriage of justice there that needs to be rectified. But the way that should work is if the local justice system fails, the federal justice system steps in. And apparently the Justice Department is going to do just that.
My point of view, it seems like we're kind of jumping the gun a little bit, but the mayors of the largest cities in the nation have a very clear case that they can make as to why a non-discrimination ordinance at state, federal, and local level would be so needed. That's
a really excellent question. And I will say first that I think that for many of the mayors that you talk about, we have a non-discrimination ordinance here in the city of Houston because I signed an executive order that includes transgenders, not because it was something that was passed by council. And it's still something that, in fact, the LGBT community here is contemplating whether to have a ballot initiative. This has to go to the ballot, and that it may or may not happen. But most of the cities that you mentioned, they already have achieved that in their cities. There's some form of non-discrimination policy, either in city employment or in broader public accommodations and so forth in those cities. And so I think that for a lot of at least the mayors that I've talked to, it's the federal government they'll get there eventually. We've already fixed that in our cities, but marriage is something that we can't fix in our cities. Marriage is something that has to happen at the federal level, and that's why they're focused that way.
Do you think it would make sense that perhaps? Do you think it would make sense then that perhaps the mayors that have those protections already would make the best evangelicals for why it should pass statewide and nationwide and in some of the other larger cities too?
Yes. Yeah. And truly, I was joking a little bit earlier when I was talking about how this Mayors for the Freedom of the Marriage came together, and that it was all these. Mayor Nutter was part of the conversation, but there's sort of all these straight guys sitting around like deciding that they're going to come out on this issue. I'm still kind of in awe of that, because I just think that these guys took a big step forward, and that they are working hard to bring their fellow mayors on board. But the real, as you said, the real important work is making sure that we have access to jobs, to economic opportunity in this country, because while I want very much to be able to marry the person who shared my life for so many years, I have alternatives because I have a certain level of economic security. And if you marriage is great, but if you don't have the ability to earn a living wage and to support yourself and your spouse, then we haven't given you very much. And so I agree with you that this is still something that we don't want to take our eye off of that. But again, in many of our cities, we already have those policies, and we're just truly the federal government. It won't be that long. And I also think that a lot of the mayors that I've talked to who signed on, they see this as the next big civil rights battle, and that non-discrimination for jobs or public accommodations, that's been won. The body's still twitching, but it's really dead. That was really gross. Okay. Now I gotta figure out a better way to say that next time. See, it's been a long day. Thank you for coming to Houston. I hope you enjoy yourself. Y'all are here, and I'm actually leaving town tomorrow. I'm taking a trade mission.